Yeah, well, that I mean, we'll come on to sort of like your pedals
Yeah.
in a moment and stuff, because you don't go on that. You don't, you certainly your work is not low cost. You're focusing more on the high end, high cost of things. Obviously, you work and the components you use and everything. Um, so how long has Triungulolab been in existence then?
Oh yeah, yeah. My story.
Yeah,
You are
that was my
forgetting
fault. I
about.
interjected. I interrupted you. So
No worries, it's cool because this means we have a lot to speak of. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, pretty much I started realizing that I didn't have any money. I had a lot of passion, and
Mm,
so I could try building something by myself. Stuff wasn't working at all. I was wasting my money at that point in time. Like another guy would say, yeah, I bought 20 euros of parts and I need to trash them.
mm,
What's the point? I could like spend 40 and buy a pedal. Instead, I was able to think, and I was lucky to think, at some point in time, this is gonna work, definitely. And when this works, I will be able to save money, for sure,
mm.
100%. And so, since just doing it, following tutorials, I mean, people who wasn't even aware of electronics wasn't the best way of doing it, I decided that I wanted to study electronics by myself. And so I did. I bought some books. I asked for some tips to my university teachers, like, do you know something which I can study, which can help me with this? And I got some help. And I studied pretty much, I started pretty much, studying things. And this made me improve a lot. Like I started understanding the principles behind electronics, the principles behind anything pretty much.
Mm.
And my first projects started being successful. Like I still remember my first pedal was like a microamp, a clone of a microamp. Then I tried building a fuzz right, but that has been a tough job because yeah, it has germanium transistors, and starting with germanium maybe isn't the best thing in the world for for a guy. But yeah, step by step, error and trial, I built an experience. I started understanding what's good, what's not. I started even building an experience of those components are valuable, those components are cheap, where do I source things? I mean, and it was like when I was 18 years old, pretty much,
Well,
18, 19 years old. So yeah, that was the time. And now, well, what's my age now? I can't remember my age. I'm 24, 25, something like that.
wow.
So yeah, but I wasn't a proper business at the time. I started just selling pedals on Facebook groups,
Mm,
mostly in Italy,
mm.
because I wanted to start like getting some money to buy my first tube amplifier. I mean, my dream amplifier was a Marshall Silver Jubilee.
Nice one.
Okay. And it cost, there was the reissue at the time. It cost like 900 euros, pretty much. No, it cost more than, yeah. I mean, around 1,000
Yeah.
pounds. Let's put that in
Mm.
pounds.
Yeah. I imagine it would be.
Okay. So I thought, what's an inexpensive pedal which I can build, but which people are interested in? And maybe in Italy it's hard to get for some reason or another. I mean, I started studying this sort of things, and I went for the Fuzz Factory. So
Yeah.
the pedal was successful. I mean, because at the time, getting a Fuzz Factory from the United States was kind of hard for Italian music shops. Don't ask me why. And it was a thing which people was interested in, probably because of Muse. I don't know. It's a crazy piece of gear which a lot of like crazy people would be interested in. Yeah, I decided to like build very good copies of that pedal, and I sourced the components and stuff, even if I didn't realize that like there were a lot of components and like 5 potentiometers, 5 knobs. And at the time, my suppliers weren't cheap because I wasn't buying directly from the source. I was buying from like third-hand suppliers. And so my margin over that pedals was about 5 to 10 euros. I can't remember. So imagine how many I had to sold to buy a silver Jubilee.
Yeah, that's quite a few.
But I made it. So as soon as I got the silver Jubilee, I realized that I needed that to improve. I was running a YouTube channel at the time, hunting for Frusciante's tones, you know. And as soon as I got the silver Jubilee, I was one of the first guys trying to make John Frusciante contents on YouTube. And the Jubilee has been like the step up to reach more people, being more professional. And with the Jubilee in my rig, I also started realizing how things were working in John Frusciante's rig. I started realizing that I was missing a BOSS CE1 in my pedal board, because the vintage BOSS CE1 has got an always-on preamp section, which was part of the John Frusciante tone. Realizing that, I made a standalone pedal, which was just a preamp section of the CE1 that has been super successful. And I mean, the rest is history. And I started my company actually after that milestone. So after that small pedal, pretty much.
Wow. And onto your pedals. I mean, one that's sticks out to me is the Chorus Ensemble that you made. I mean, that sounds absolutely fantastic, I have to say. So I mean, have you got it there at all, or that you can show us and talk us through it? It sounds lush. It sounds absolutely lush.
I mean, it's not something you need to thank me for. It's something we need BOSS to thank, because yeah, this one is just a faithful reproduction of the original pedal. It's just compact, and it's just like a little bit higher quality with components, but it's not BOSS's fault. It's because components in the 80s were shit, pretty much. While nowadays we can manage to get the noise floor level down a little bit more. And yeah, this one you can supply it with 9 volts instead of like plugging the cord into your power plug. And this can potentially solve you some ground loop issues. Yeah, I mean, it does. So yeah, you can bring this onto a pedal board and not lose a lot of real estate. So it's something which I needed personally. Like when I used to play around with my let's call it band, even if I never had like proper band, unfortunately. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, this thing is a rock. It's so big. I can't stand bringing it around. And also it's so expensive. Like, I mean, this is not cheap, but it's mostly because the IC, the chip, which makes the effect inside, is like unobtainium nowadays. You can't find it anywhere. So most of the price comes from that single chip, which allows you to have the effect. But yeah, not considering that, this one is still cheaper than a proper unit. So even if you break it, but I mean, it's even more, this one has been built during those years. The original ones, how many years do they have? Like 40 years? So, I mean, a switch, a knob, something can break one day or another, like in the near future. So even if you're spending like 700 euros on to an original one and you have a bulky piece of gear, unreliable and unaffordable, I guess, because it's more expensive. I mean, I don't see the point of buying one of those anymore unless it is for collection. Like,
Yeah.
I have them for collection because I love those pedals, but I would never use one of them if I was about to record anything or to play anywhere. You know, it's not something, it's something which you can store in your room, show off, but not anything more than that.
Yeah. And some of the other pedals you've got on your website.
Speaking about the CE1, this is just the preamp section. So it's just a single level knob. And this one is true bypass, so you can engage or get the true bypass signal out of this. And it's just the preamp section of the CE1. A lot of people, like, I remember that I have been the first one to understand the importance of the CE1 preamp, actually, because back in the day, if you went onto forums, you always saw like those, I guess the first one which started making those has been Analog Mike from Analog Man. I don't know, correct me guys if I'm wrong, but yeah, he was claiming that the preamp section from the CE1 was sucking tone because the impedance was set for keyboards. And that is true. The input impedance of the CE1 is very low. So if you plug a guitar straight into it, which is a high impedance instrument, you're going to have all of your high end completely dying. Right. So it's gonna sound dull and bassy, no treble. But what if you put a buffer in front of that? Even like a buffer which you don't know you have in your chain. Like if you have a BOSS pedal into your chain, which is buffered automatically because most of the BOSS pedals are buffered, and you go guitar, buffer, CE1, the issue is immediately gone because the buffer lowers the impedance almost to, let's say, virtually zero. So you get all of your high end back, and you don't need to modify the pedal. And even if you modded the pedal, that modification didn't allow you for like a way better experience. I mean, give the pedal what the pedal wants to see. He needs a low impedance, give the pedal a low impedance. Instead, that modification was trying to severely modifying the preamp section. And anyway, I realized John Frusciante was using the preamp section to get some of his crunchy tone and some of the balance between amplifiers, dirt, and preamp dirt. And this one is very peculiar, has got a very peculiar sound, very unique sound. So as soon as I realized that, I thought I need to make a preamp pedal, even for people which just want the same crunchy tone as John Frusciante, but can't afford a proper CE1 or even a replica, a mini replica. So that's why I did this pretty much.
Wow, excellent. And what else, other pedals have you got there to show us? I mean, have you, you've got the JF Fuzz, is that right?
Yeah. You can imagine what that means.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So this is the JF Fuzz. This is the octopus which John Frusciante has like a tattoo on his arm, and I just put it in on the pedal, and it's actually just, I mean, it's a very very good replica of the germanium Fuzzrite. Like whenever I was trying to get John Frusciante's John Frusciante's Fuzzrite tone, I always tried to get that tone with the silicon version, but I never succeeded. And one day I said, let me try with the germanium one. Like the original pedals made by Mosrite, which were actually germanium, were like probably 200 pedals. They're just like non-existent in the world. If you search for one, they have like super high and crazy prices. So I said, let me try building a germanium one. Of course, the first ones which I made were sounding okay and made the job, but then like a friend of mine, which was originally a customer but then became a friend, called David, had got an original germanium fuzz drive. He gifted it to me, asking nothing, so I'm super thankful to him still nowadays. And I was able to analyze the transistors which were inside, take all the measurements, and then I started hunting for all sorts of different germanium transistors out there in the world, because the original ones aren't available anymore, sadly. And as soon as I found the ones which were a perfect match, doing A/B tests between the original and this one, it was like blowing my mind, because they were like undistinguishable. Instead, like using some different germanium transistors in this particular circuit, because with other fuzz pedals doesn't matter a lot actually, but with this one it is really, really picky about the transistor which are inside, and it's been a nightmare to find the right ones, honestly.
Wow.
And very expensive thing to do. Like now I have a stash of unused transistors which I don't know what to do. But yeah, I mean, I like doing perfect things, so that's cool for the customers, not for my wallet, pretty much.